All right, to review what we've done, what I did was I took that first program that we had done, or I should say the last one that we had put into the storyboard. All right, and I don't want to keep going back and forth between these two, but it's the one that's on the handout that's on page 3. It says, when you're done, your file should look like this. So I grabbed that one, changed the name to Tip Calculator Model, as we were asked to do on page 3, created a brand new Swift file, and that's the one that you see up there that's called, it's up there someplace, Tip Calculator Model.swift. And I don't know how it got in the supporting files because it should be up in here. All right, it is now. Okay? So that's it. In fact, if I click on it, there it is. That's the file I copied in. Does that make sense to everyone? All right? So that brings us to page 4. Okay? And page 4 says Introduction to Storyboards and the Interface Builder. All right. So you already know this, that if you want to open up the Interface Builder, you single click on the main.storyboard file. All right? So if I click on this, this is what I see. And if you say, well, I don't see this thing in here, then, what is it, this one here? Yeah, it's one of those. There's a little button down below it that should not, that you can click, and that'll bring it up. So if you look at where, I realize it might be hard for you to see, but down towards the bottom of my screen right now, right up above the status bar, all right, if I click there, that makes it appear and disappear. Well, it should. And if you still can't get it, then just let me know. All right. So it says you create the interface for your iOS apps in something called a storyboard. Xcode comes with a built-in tool called Interface Builder. Just so you know, you may not care, but I'm just telling you this anyway, that for years when you were working on this stuff, you didn't have a file that was called main.storyboard. Instead, you'd have a file, and that file would literally end with an extension of .xib, which stood for Xcode Interface Builder. All right? And some people called them a nib file, and some people call them a zib file, because no one knew exactly how to pronounce the X that was in there. And there literally were articles that people were arguing over what to call these files. I'm glad they don't have that argument anymore, and it's not a problem. All right. So it says, go ahead and click on the main storyboard in the Interface Builder. On the far left is your project navigator. You already know what that is, so that isn't anything new. All right? And then it says on the left of the Interface Builder is your document outline. And again, that's this thing right here. Does all that make sense to everyone? I'm on the middle of about halfway down on page 4, maybe a third of the way down. It's tutorial 2. We've already gone through tutorial 1. After the break, I'll tell you my other trial and tribulation, because you asked Mark about, is there anything else we can do? I came up with something, but I'll tell you how that worked. Okay? All right. It says, right now your app has only one view controller with one white empty view. You'll be adding to that soon. It says there's an arrow. Well, as far as I can tell, there's nothing over here. So am I doing something wrong, Kelly, or is there something I do to make that appear there? I don't remember. Okay. Okay. Yep. There you go. Thank you. There's an idea. All right. All right. So, step 3 says there is an arrow to the left of your view controller. This indicates that this is the initial view controller or the view controller that is displayed when the app starts up. Okay? It says, and then they say you can change it. Well, there's no reason to change that right now. Okay. On the bottom of the interface builder, and you can see this if you look right here, there's a couple buttons here that says WNE and HNE. Everybody see that? That's for width and height. And what they have you do in this particular tutorial it says that you'll see something that says WNE and HNE. This means that you are editing the layout for your app in a way that should work on any sized user interface. So what we're trying to do with this, what we're going to try to do is do an auto layout. This is one of the things we tried to do with that game that we were working on, the Bullseye game, that we had some problems with. Hopefully, we won't have problems with it this time. All right? If we go through it, and it works for some people, and other people do the exact same thing, and you say, why didn't that work for me? That's going to be a real hard one to answer. Okay, I'm just telling you that right now. Okay? So it says you can do this through the power of something called auto layout. By clicking this area, you can switch to editing the layout for devices of specific size classes. You'll learn about adaptive UI and auto layout in a future tutorial. But that said, they actually do talk about it a little bit in this tutorial. All right. It says on the top of the view controller, you'll see 3 small icons. Everybody see those up here? See where my mouse is right now? I believe those, I don't know if those are the ones, I think they used to be on the bottom. You know, when we did the project before, I believe they were on the bottom. I'm almost positive they were. Because I remember when we had to drag, you had to drag down to the bottom if you wanted to drag it to the view controller. I think if you click on the actual storyboard itself, they'll show. All right. All right. It says that these represent the view controller itself and 2 other items, first responder and exit. It says if you've been developing in Xcode for a while, you'll notice these have moved. I guess I should have read that. They used to be below the view controller. All right. You won't be using these in this tutorial, so don't worry about them for now. On the bottom of the interface builder are 4 icons related to auto layout. Those are way down here. Again, I realize that's kind of tough for you to see, but you should be able to see it, hopefully at least, on your own screen. They're the ones they're talking about. Choke myself. That are down here. All right. And again, for anyone who's watching these tapes, as I said before, I keep saying it, but I'm going to keep saying it, there is an incompatibility between Camtasia for the Mac and OS X Yosemite. So what I'm doing is what I'm taping is just what you see on the screen if you're watching the tape is not what the class is seeing. The class is seeing the Mac that I'm using. But I can't do that and have it work in Camtasia right now. All right? Their workaround is unacceptable to me. I'm not going to go and do an uninstall and install an older version and then hope at the end of the semester when I install the new version again that it all works. I'm not going to do that. All right. It says in the upper right of Interface Builder are the inspectors for whatever you've selected in the document outline window. It says if you do not see those, well, that's what's up here. This is your inspector area right there. So I believe by now everybody, at least, if nothing else, you're familiar with the setup of Xcode. You realize that it's a little quirky and it's changed a little bit between version 5.1, which we were using, and version 6, which we're using now, or 6.1, or whatever the heck it is. It really doesn't matter. All right. So I'm down halfway down on page 5, creating your views. If you have looked at the final project for this, and you may not have, but if you have, this does not look like the one we built as a class. It's much cruder looking, just so you're aware of that. There would be nothing that would stop you from going and putting in your own interface and using wiring it up to be able to use that class with it. All right, I'm just going to follow what's in the book here, or what's on the tutorial. So it says, remember your tip calculator has 2 inputs, one for your total and one for your tax percentage. It says it would be nice if the user could type the total in a numeric keyboard so a text field is perfect for that. As for the tax percentage, it says it's usually restricted to a small range of values, so you'll use a slider for that. Okay? In addition to the text field and slider, you'll need a label for each one, a navigation bar to show the app's name, a button to perform the tip calculation, and a text field to show the result. So they say, starting about halfway down here on page 5, it says, let's build this interface one piece at a time. All right, so halfway down on step 5, and all are on page 5, and all of page 6 goes through the steps for building this. Everybody cool with that? So what I'm going to do is attempt to do those. And like we did in the class the other day, all right, hopefully now you see why I want to have books. I don't like this where I'm switching back and forth between machines, and you have to do that, and you're working off pieces of paper. That's unacceptable. All right? So what we're going to do is, let's take a break because it's 1:45 already. But when we come back from the break, I'm going to pick it up from here. Let's build this interface a piece at a time. So I'm going to go through the 2 steps on page 5 and the next 6 steps on page 6. I'm going to do that first, which will bring us to step 7 or to page 7, which is a view controller tour. So my hope is let's at least see how fast we can get through that part, and then we'll talk about the rest of the stuff that's in here. All right? All right. And I will just tell you this very quickly. So let me switch back over to here. I have no idea what this might do to the tape, but all right, I just wanted to show you this because I mentioned this to you before. Shouldn't remove that, but that's fine. I thought maybe I'd have a fix for these problems that we've been having. All right, so, and what I mean is this. I got sent the thing yesterday by a different publisher. That's it, but here. Saying that they had this new book. And I thought, wow, this sounds really good. Why? Well, come on. Because it's called iOS Development with Swift. And I thought, well, that's good if it's available. So what I did, here's the book, first of all. I will tell you, I have not used a Manning book for a class, and there is a reason for that. They're very literal. They're very cerebral. All right? And what I mean by that is a lot of times, in my opinion, the people who write these books spend 4 pages saying what you could say in a page. All right? Now, as far as the book itself, see if it, hopefully it'll get me to it. Oh, come on. There. Here's what's in it. It sounded like it would be good enough. All right? Your first Swift application, exploring Swift, storyboards, UI views, etc. You can see all the stuff in there. Plus this chapter, and I downloaded this one yesterday. I'll put it out there on the system. You don't have to do it. But I'm not going to, I'm tired of going out there all the time. Mike knows about this, that, it was part of this grant. I was told that I can buy things and I'll get reimbursed. So I went out and spent $500 and they paid me back so far. That would be nothing. Even though they told me that I'd get it within 2 or 3 weeks, it's now been almost 8. And during that time, I went out and spent about $300 more, which I haven't even put in stuff yet for. So I'm sick of laying out 30, 40, 50, 100 bucks at a crack of my own money, not even knowing whether or not I'm going to get reimbursed for it. And I'm not blaming anybody for it. It's the politics of the place. Hopefully, I'm going to get reimbursed soon. But the point is, there's the book. So I sent them an email. I sent them an email. And what I asked in the email, you'll be able to see it in a second. Let's see. Manning support team. It looks real ugly, but this is what I sent them. Hello. I would like to know if I could get an e-copy of the following text. iOS development for Swift, early edition, boom, and all the information. I gave them my information. Then they wrote back and they said, you can read all about our academic and request policy from here, which means I can't contact support and have them do that for me. I've got to go through their official channels. Okay, fine. So I went through their official channels. I logged in. I've got an account with Manning. I logged in. I did the academic and, the stuff that's in there. And lo and behold, when you look through here, that book isn't listed. It's so new, it's not listed in their books that they have available. So I wrote back to them and said, where is it? It's in here someplace. But I wrote back to them and said, there. Hello, the book I am requesting is not listed under the Manning Academic Policy and Request Form. That's why I put in the request I did. Thanks. So I'm hoping they get back to me. Now, I can't officially, if you don't know this, and I'm still taping, and that's fine. If you don't know this, once you go out here, and you may have heard me say this before, but I want to make sure you all hear this. So if you go out to the old courses.blackhawk.edu, and I put in 152, 153, which is our book, our class rather, and now I go over it, because now you can go out to the view the book info. Once that stuff appears on there, it is against the law for us to change the book. It's not my policy. It supposedly is literally against the law for us to change it. And it has to do with everybody who's on funding and all this stuff, because that's how they plan stuff and whatever. And look at the book. Dytel, Swift for Programmers. So I can't change it. All right? So the only way that we're going to use another book is if I can get somebody to either give me a PDF for free, and that's about it. This? Yeah. No, this is a standard form that they have. That's all. It's a standard form. No, there aren't. You know, that's why the new one is back ordered, because it hasn't come out yet. No, that gets put in there automatically for them. Any book that you have, that automatically gets put in there. Yeah. I take any copy. So just so you know, that, like I said, that's the other thing. All right. And is that a possibility? Hey, worst case comes to worst, if there's money in that grant and they say, you know, if they come back to me and say, I'm sorry, there's no book that's going to be available until then I'm going to see if there's any way that I can go, and if those books are like $45 each, if there's 10 of you in the class, if they'll give me $500 and I can buy 10 of them, I'll do that. All right. So, all right, let's take a break.